Hello and welcome, everybody. This is in England and in Europe, it's the spring equinox, and these are divine. And in Australia and Bali, it's the autumn equinox. So I wanted to give a little intro because my friend and colleague Sam, who is now not very well, we created this. It's the Path to Pleasure. It's a group of people who are speaking into the concept of pleasure in all areas. And usually when you hear pleasure, people instantly think, oh, it's a sexual vibe, or it's got something to do with sensuality. It does. And we are way more expansive than that. We're speaking into pleasure in business, pleasure in your children's lives, pleasure in motherhood. Every aspect of pleasure, when you start to bring it in, alters the old paradigms that we've been taught, that pleasure is like a nugget of a reward after a hard slog, like you've worked your whole life. This is the old patriarchal view of things. You work your whole life, you sacrifice yourself to work. And then right at the very end, you're able to pick up a little bit of pleasure, right at the end, and usually then you die. So we want to alter that mechanism of thinking. And now I'd just like to welcome all of you from wherever you are. The list, I think, has come in. Do you want to say where you're from? It'd be really nice to hear that. And then I can introduce the pleasure team, the Path to Pleasure team. Yeah, just tell us where you're from, where you're coming in from. Ah, sorry, I couldn't hear you very well, but do you mind typing it in rather than, I'm going to mute you, just because of the sound. Let me see. Yeah, anybody, if you see that you're not muted, do you mind muting? Because we can bring you in later for a conversation. But for now, just for the recording, it would be great to have the piece. So I'm in London, England. Sam would have been in Perth, Australia. She's not even listening into this. She's so unwell, but we were in touch. We've got Cecile from Cornwall, or Cecil. I am Pascal, based in Southeast London. I know you. Nice to see you. Melina in Stockholm, Sweden. Guillaume from Hoddesdon, Hertfordshire. He's also in England. And so we've got people coming in. I think the Americans will probably be asleep unless they're having a miraculous morning. Lena coming in as well from Sweden. So I'm going to, there's Helen coming in right now. I'll just repeat again. Anybody who arrives and hasn't muted, do you mind just muting? It'll just make the recording so much better. But welcome, everybody. And the equinox is this moment. You have 2 moments a year only that are exactly in balance. And so that is why the equinox is all around balance. There's a theme and a thread to it. You have this moment in time when it's like a still point, and all of nature knows that the birds are singing like mad in London. I mean, it's just amazing hearing the difference in the bird song. We know the light is coming back. For you in Australia, there's probably a moment that you're stepping into the darker months. I don't know if Australia is ever dark. I've never been there. But it occurs to me that we know on an instinct. And this is the time when dark and light are equal, day and night are equal. And definitely in England, I can really feel that. It's like we have this moment. And so there is a focus of balance here. It's a moment where we can come in and we actually intuitively know there's a moment of balance, a tipping point. It's an assessment point. In Britain and Europe, it's actually linked very strongly with the ancient planting rituals. So we would have marinated on our ideas before this. And I'm a spiritual business coach. So a lot of the work I do with clients up until this point during the darker months is marinating, where I'm getting them to think of all sorts of different ideas about their business, their life, their projects. What are they putting out into the world? But because of the nature of the marination in the darker months, it's all about exploration. It's the dark feminine. So it's not about pulling those things forward quite yet. It's about allowing all sorts of ideas. And I know I've had a gazillion ideas that I thought, oh, that sounds great. I'm going to do that. Great idea for a business, going to do that. And then I just leave it a little bit longer, like a brew that's brewing. And I'm like, no, that's not a right fit. When we come to this moment right now, it's about seed planting. And it's about intuitively going from a place of the whimsical ideas that I'm doing, which is a great period and necessary in any creative process. But then you have to pull it down to a seed. You have to. If you don't, then what you're doing is you're staying up here. It's all whimsical ideas that never get done. And when you start to pull down, okay, of all those things I've been thinking about in the darker seasons, what am I actually going to activate and launch? What am I actually going to do? So I'm going to just say, Maria has said from Brisbane in Australia, it's dark here too in winter, is it? Okay, I didn't know that. And Lena from, I will never say these Swedish words correctly, but Grana, I try and speak like Nina, who will be coming on in a minute. Yeah, you're having problems with your camera. Well, welcome everybody. And I'm now going to bring in the team so we can see who is actually, if you have a look, where is Nina? And I can't even say Nina's last name. Do you want to say it?
I had my mind. Yeah, Iderberg. Yeah.
Whoa.
Hardly pronounceable for the Swedes. You want me to say anything more?
Yeah, just say who you are. Like, this is just a welcome. Say who you are. I can pin you for a sec.
Yes, I am actually a doctor. I've been trying to hide that I'm a doctor. I've been ashamed that I'm a doctor because I think so much of the Western medicine today is actually harmful. It's not helping people at the best. It keeps the status quo, at the worst. It makes keep people worse or even kill them. So I've been trying to figure out what I am, and I'm a witch and I'm a shaman and I'm this and that. But then just lately I realized I think I'm actually a real doctor, the one that heals people, or not, I'm not healing, but that helps people to regain health through balance. So it feels excellent to talk about that today. I'm going to talk about pleasure as medicine.
Fabulous. So I will mute you again. I've muted you, and I'm going to bring in, where is Johanna gone? Let me just find you again. There you are. I'm going to pin you as well. Add pin. There you go. Tell us about you.
Hello.
Down in Cornwall.
So yes, I'm in Cornwall, and I suppose I have a similar message. I'm also a doctor. I am I'm a GP, still am, but I've pivoted in the last 2-3 years to embrace the mystery more, to embrace the feminine and embrace the more spiritual side. So I've always kind of done body and mind and understood that very well. And I have reawakened. I saw it was always there, but I hadn't used it. And now I'm proactively using it within my practice, which is outside of the system, because the system doesn't really allow for the time that's needed for personal approaches. But I'm definitely also incorporating more holistic spiritual practices in my work now. And I will be talking about that balance of the masculine and feminine energies. So that's me.
Thank you. And I am not a doctor. I'm the one that is not a doctor. I'm a spiritual business coach, and my background has been for 30 years in two aspects: spirituality coming from the West, actually from deep within Ireland, Britain, and Scotland. And I did a Wicca path. I studied Wicca. I became a high priestess. That means a teacher of the ancient ways. And to some people, that would be a shock that we actually have indigenous teaching of the West, because much of it was erased in the witch hunts. Medieval witch hunts got rid of all the indigenous teachers, many of whom were women. It was a mass culling genocide. And then what happened was, this is all through the Christianity and the influx of a different God message. So all the goddess message of the earth and of working with the seasons and the cycles and that was erased in Europe. And then what happened was, and then they went and colonialized and started doing the same to brothers and sisters of other cultures. And that was the colonization. So for me to find this information, to really dig deep, I had to go on quite the journey as a much younger woman. So 30 years ago, I was initiated into a Wiccan path, and a lot of the threads of the information from that have come from hidden sources. You know, quite rightly, they had to be hidden. And so I've learned all about the earth and sacred cycles. And that's why the equinox is really key, because it's part of the sacred cycles. When I teach it into Aladdin, so then I studied the East, and I did 30 years of being a yoga teacher, studying all the Sanskrit, studying all of the Eastern mysticism, brought those threads together, and then collided with big business and ended up being very successful very quickly. I created a 10 million pound property business. Like literally, I kind of accidentally fell into it. It was like that. And I've done lots of things. And so what I do is I bring the cycles into the business so that you can launch at the right time. So you're riding with a current. When I'm talking about today, this period, I mean, literally this week, you want to have the seeds that you want to send out. All those mulling ideas that you've been thinking about, it's like, now's the time. Now's the time. And to create it into something more concrete. And what we're transmuting is we're moving it from air, which is thought, ideas, creativity, sound, scent, breath, into earth, right? So it grows into this kind of thing in your business and becomes magnificent. What I'm going to do is, the schedule is slightly altered because Sam isn't here and not doing the intro. What I'd like to do is just mention that this group, the Path to Pleasure, plus some who are not here, are coming together to do a retreat at the summer solstice. Again, choosing the timing. This summer solstice is very special because we have a full moon on a full sun moment. And the symbolism is very much like divine masculine, full sun, solar, meets divine feminine. And so this group, including Johannika and Nina, are coming to do teachings at the event. It's called the Path to Pleasure. I will drop the link in later. I know Maria Steiner is coming all the way from Brisbane to it, which is incredible. And we will also have divine masculine. So we've got somebody who's coming in who's going to be working with all the masculine energy. And my feeling about it, my instinct on this, to even have been able to get the center was crazy. You have to book 2 years in advance. When I booked this place, I said, what's available for this year? And they said, November. Oh, and the summer solstice. And I was like, okay, let's go. Like, there's something really magical. All the astrology of what's going on this year is after many years of hardship, as we know, with COVID and wars, genocide, etc., energy spikes, you name it. There's a flicker of life coming back. This is the year for that. So any of you who are just feeling like it's been exhausting, now's the time that it's time to do something big. And those who take risks will be rewarded. That's the kind of general spiritual essence behind it. Well, we have a photographer who's going to come to this retreat who is next level. I mean, I've worked with a lot of photographers, and I'm going to just start, instead of going into Johannika was going to be first, I'm going to just show Louise's video because she's coming to the retreat. I've used her for some major articles that I was doing in a magazine. A lot of people, Nina's worked with her to do some incredible publicity. And I'm just going to show you her work because also it might just make you think, hey, you know, I really want to do a shoot at this level for my business, my identity, whatever it is. And Louise is coming to this retreat and she will be showcasing her work, and you can book a session with her. Normally she would cost more than the retreat just to work with her. Now you could come to this retreat, have the whole retreat for 3 days, 3 days of ceremony, teachings. You get to do what you want in deep nature, incredible nature, and have a shoot. So I'm going to show you her. I'm going to screen share and put in a short video so you can just see who she's. Another member of the Path to Pleasure. So I will screen share and let me see where it is. Where is, oh, there it is. So I'm going to just try and play this for you. So just get ready. It will be short. Okay, ready? So there you go. And that's just a little bit of information so you can see who is coming. And then I'm going to hand it over to, I'll drop the link in the bio so you can, in the chat, so you can have a look at that. If you have any questions about coming or how does it work, trains, flights, I've been doing all of that with different people, please connect with me afterwards. And my sound is a bit wonky. I've just seen that. Okay. I don't know why. Now I'm going to just hand over to, it's not anymore. Okay. Hand over to Johannika.
Hello. So the sound sounded a bit wonky here. It may just be me. So if my sound is wonky, let me know. I'll keep a little eye on the chat. Thank you, Inara. So I am lucky enough to live in Cornwall, like Cecil, which is a very beautiful place. It's also very wet, which means it's very green. So I like to think of it as a temperate rainforest, which there are patches, and actually Kabila, the place where the retreat is in an area of original temperate rainforest. So it's very, very beautiful. So if you are on the fence about it, I would highly recommend coming. We live very close to that place. So today I wanted to share some general thoughts about this balance idea, and also a little bit of my story woven into it. So the equinox is such a powerful time, and I have more recently got back to following the seasons as guidance on a whole life, really, because actually it was something that my mother probably tried to do, but I at the time wasn't really very interested, and then completely lost that part of that wisdom along the way of my adolescence and adult life until fairly recently, actually. So what is the balance that we have at the moment? It is a time when there is as much light as there is darkness, as much night and day. You know, the day and the night are equal length, which is a very potent moment. And it also reflects the balance of the masculine and the feminine energies, and the balance of action and rest, which I have noticed and experienced myself is very much something that our culture still struggles with. And a lot of the clients and patients I see, they struggle with that a lot. There is still an emphasis on the masculine aspect, the action, the doing, and the rest and the nourishing, the feminine part is often neglected or forgotten about. So there's obviously the spring equinox, which is where we are here, which means we're coming from dark, we're coming from a space of more rest and more inward to inviting the masculine back in, so to speak. So this is where we're going to do a time of more action, more energy. It's more outgoing, and it's also quite interesting that it's also the start of Aries season, and Aries is fire. So it really kind of all fits into that switch from inward to outward. And we're also going to a Libra full moon next week, or even a full moon eclipse, which is kind of makes us move forward into this new energy, and then have another moment of pause next week where we go, oh, okay, let's just have another time of reflection. So I think that's quite potent enough. And this is what's so wonderful about following the seasons and also following the moon and the planets, because you whenever you think, oh, I'm not quite sure, you can take a moment and use that as a guidance to help you balance again. So the autumn equinox, which is also relevant for some people who may be watching this, is the opposite. So we're going from the high energy of summer, and we're inviting in the feminine, and we're going towards more withdrawal, reflection, and inwards. And I think that's an element which is something I've had to do. So I'll talk about that in a moment. And I think as a collective, most of us, particularly women who have managed to do well, often are still struggling with that balance. So feminine energy, I mean, some of you might be very familiar with all of this, but I will just sort of point it out. The elements, particularly in the Celtic tradition, that are associated with the feminine energy are water and earth. And this energy is receptive, it's reflective, it's about rest, recuperation, nourishment, it's about emotions and intuition, compassion, creativity, and it's also about the body, sensuality and grounding. And it's obviously connected to Mother Earth or to our planet. It's that energy that pulls us, keeps us grounded, pulls us in, and makes us pause and reflect. And then the opposite of this is the masculine energy, which is the elements of fire, which is the Aries, is part of Aries, and the element of air. And this is an energy that's much more active, dynamic, energetic, passionate, but also intellectual, logical, communicative. So it's very much outgoing. It's an energy of doing, action, and getting on with things. And that's what we're moving towards. That's why Inara mentioned this is a potent time to go from ideas and marinating or considering what you're going to do into taking those first real action steps. But they can still be small steps. We are not in the full height of the energy that comes with the middle of the summer. So my own experience, and I don't know if anybody's read the Heroine's Journey, which is kind of another version of the Hero's Journey, is that a lot of women there's kind of two paths that women seem to take as either high achieving, so you're kind of fitting in with that masculine energy of doing, getting things done, maybe getting a higher education, finding a good, well-paid job. But for that, needing to step into that masculine energy, and I had to certainly do that. And I'm now not so proud anymore, but I was actually quite proud of myself for my lack of being emotional, my lack, you know, I wasn't the one who was moaning about my periods. I was quite happy on the pill, which I now think, oh dear. But it made me function. It made me tough. It made me be able to do exams. It made me get through medical training, do those long shifts, and just be tough. And I used to pride myself in that. But I completely missed out on this whole other world of the wisdom and the power of the feminine element of feminine energy and the receptivity, and how important it is to stop and pause and rest and reflect. Now, within my training, because I'm a triple Aquarius, I am very much of the mind and in an intellectually inclined. Reflecting in the mind is something that I'm used to, but reflecting with the body and actually using the body as a guide and a compass is something that I've only recently understood and learned to use. So now I have definitely rediscovered, it was my daughter who became very unwell and then was 12 and turned 13 and had her first cycle, that really made me stop and go, oh, you know, I have 3 children. I have been a mother. I've provided. And I've tried to be sensitive and receptive, but I'm not sure I really was listening and observing their needs in the same way as in a true receptive feminine sense. And I just got things done. That was my modus operandi, and I think that's what a lot of people can probably relate to. And inevitably, that led to a rethink, a reassessment, and then a bit of a burnout where actually all of that became too much to function within that proactive world of you know, being a doctor in the UK as a GP, you on average have about 30 or more patient contacts a day. And imagine just making decisions on every single person. They could be life or death. They often aren't. They often more emotionally. But just that sheer volume of having to get things done, and then to have a family of 3 children and a husband and, you know, pets and all of that comes with that. The only way for me to get through that was to reduce how often I work and just to kind of just recover or do very little on the days I had off, and then get physical with it. So that was still another masculine. In my 40s, I just got very fit and active and did lots of physical things. And now I am nearly 50, and I've learned to do much less. I've learned to rest. I've learned to really honor that if my body doesn't want to go for a run, that I'm not doing it. Maybe go for a gentle walk. I'm not doing all that pushing and shoving. And the other thing I wanted to mention, so this is just to make you think about what's the balance that I have in my life in the way I do, because there is another type of feminine energy, or energy that's another type of being which could be seen as more feminine, which is the person that is caring, considerate, emotional, you know, and it's more that Cancer archetype of really leaning into that receptivity and caring for others. But it is a mix with having to do and provide. So again, there is often not a lot of self-care, a lot of care for self, but it's kind of a mixture of being there, being very open, emotional, and sensitive, but actually neglecting the self in all of this. But these are traditionally or often the people who struggle more with their physicality, maybe illnesses, PMT, menopause symptoms. It can be that, again, it's out of balance. There is a mixture of leaning into the feminine energy, but then using adrenaline to just get things done. So that's another kind of point that can be really difficult for people. So I wanted to invite you today, and we'll have some time for reflection, I think, with the others as well, to really have a think about, well, how is the balance in my life? Where have I come from? Was it more masculine or feminine type energy? What am I at the moment? What am I aiming for? Because every person probably has a natural, slightly more prominent type of energy, but every person also goes through all these phases where we all have action and rest. We all have times when we're more proactive and outgoing, and times when we need to come in. So this is an invitation to take this time to reflect on where you are in your balancing act of the feminine and the masculine energies. So that's what I wanted to say today. I hope that was helpful.
Very helpful. I'm just gonna I popped in. I think it's amazing, that conversation around the masculine and the feminine, because actually it doesn't mean you have to be a man or a woman to experience these two energetics. They're very different. And all the work that I do is with, there's a huge piece when I think of who do I work with. I work with exhausted executives often. They've been in the hypermasculine for years. They get rewarded for that non-emotion. Rewards are staying long hours, proving themselves. Everything is a push. And then I get people who are actually at a level of success, sort of, but the behind the scenes is not at all. The behind the scenes is what I call train wreck. And it's getting them to start to honor. And, a big mantra that I want to give you right now in the balance of all of this is me first. Me first. All of you, me first. And me first, when you take it on, doesn't mean you second. Because the caring over carers, right? The over carers freak out about, oh, I can't say me first. It's selfish. It's unattractive. But actually, if you want to find a tipping point, where is this balance going to be? You take on me first as a mantra and see what shifts you have to make. So just to give you a bit of the schedule, I also want to say, if anybody wants to ever be in touch with Jo she works outside of the NHS now, offering sessions which are longer, bringing in the harmony of, traditional medical medicine and non-traditional alternative medicine. That's who she is. So if anybody feels they want that kind of conversation, and one of her things is that she really is the menopause light worker. So she works a lot with women who are dealing with menopause, and she brings in very different elements because she is so deeply spiritual. So I'm going to carry on and just say thank you so much, Jo. That was invaluable. What I'm going to do is now move into my section and really take you on a journey. I want to do an activation with you. And so it's time for get out of the talky bit and go straight into an experience. So I invite you to relax, take your glasses off, uncross your legs. Part of the work that I do, which is the it's more the radical alternative stuff that I do, is I take people through energetic experiences to alter the actual energy that you yourself are operating on, to help them create immense success in love, life, and business. And some of the work that I do is specifically king and queen activations. So again, it's not attached to gender or sexuality. So if you are a gay man, not relating to, let's say, a king activation because it occurs to you like it's too, hyper masculine, then take on the queen activation. It doesn't matter who you're working with on an inner level. But what we're doing is I'm taking you to the highest level of your frequency to be able to then make some decisions. And today really we're getting into this space of what seeds are you going to plant? Like Joe said, this is the very beginning, but it is when you connect with Earth. It's like Earth time for you to actually, even if you're in the Australian equinox, it doesn't matter. Seeds that will go into the dark for you, seeds that will go into the light for us. So sit back and take some deep breaths. Breathing out of your mouth, you can make a sound. Deep breath in and exhale. And another one of those. Deep breath in and exhale. And start to imagine that you are drawing in breath into every cell of your body. So your whole body is a mechanism for breath. You're bringing in breath through the soles of your feet. Imagine breathing the next breath through the soles of your feet. And then imagine breathing in the back of your heart. Then imagine breathing in through the crown of your head. And as you do so, imagine that you are in a beautiful place in nature. It can be anywhere in the world, any season, just an incredibly beautiful place in nature that you yourself really relate to. So it could be by the ocean, or it could be in a desert, could be on a mountain, could be in a meadow, could be in a forest. Feel your way to the place that truly expresses your delight, your pleasure. What is the nature for you of pleasure? And then allow yourself to listen in this beautiful place. Notice the sounds that you hear. Are you hearing birdsong or wind in the trees or water in the distance? And allow yourself to just receive that. And then notice if you're picking up a scent on the wind, in the air, a scent of this beautiful place. Could be scent of the ocean, scent of flowers, scent of pine trees. Stretching yourself to pick up the scent, and then feeling the temperature. What is the ideal, perfect temperature for you in this beautiful place? Then as you look down at your feet are bare on the earth. Noticing as you look down that you are naked and experiencing the energy of being naked, feeling free and feeling safe at the same time in this beautiful nature place. Free and safe, picking up the energies of that, total freedom. This is your place, your nature, total freedom and total safety at the same time. And breathing that in, that feeling of, I can do anything I want. I'm the one. breathing that in and then feeling, I can do anything I want. I can be anyone I want because it's safe to be me, to be free. As you look down at the earth, picking up a scent of the earth that you're standing on, you also become aware of this freedom of nakedness. And the journey you are taking starts with you being naked. You feel the wind caressing your shoulders, a slight breeze awakening up the back body. You feel the lightness of the path that you're walking with no burdens, no clothing. And nobody is watching, so you're able to express yourself fully, feeling this immense capacity, no shame, no embarrassment, just utter freedom. And feeling what it was like to be a child who had no awareness of, I'm a little too fat, or I'm getting old, or any of that stuff that plays on the adult mind. Just feeling, I'm just here. I am. And noticing with the feeling of I am, taking on that statement, I am, as you walk across the earth in your beautiful nature. Notice when you say I am, what are the words that start to come out? I am. And you're saying it like a mantra. You're experiencing the mantra of I am. And you start with I am free. And you feel what that feels like. And then you add in, I am free to express myself fully. I am safe. And then start adding words that are relevant to what you are up to right now. What are the words that want to drop in to bring the balance of I am free, I am safe? These two incredible energies. Well, if you are free and you are safe, what are you? Who are you? I am. And feeling the energy as you look ahead of you, you see the most beautiful spot. It's as if the sunlight has shone a ray directly onto this spot. It is fascinating. And you walk up to this spot on the earth and you realize that it is a sacred spot. This earth is defined as different than any other place. You feel its energy like a sacred site. There is a silence, a hush, as you experience this place on the earth. And you see on one side three bulbs. Three bulbs are waiting for you. And to the other side, you see a trowel, an implement of digging. You know exactly what to do. You pick up your three bulbs, and one at a time, you hold them up and you say, I am. And you imbue the essence of what you are into each bulb. So in the form of creation that you are creating, you're sending the energy of who you are into these bulbs. One might be distinctly around a business goal. I am daring. Another might be around a love goal. I am receiving. Another one might be around a health goal. I'm in balance. Whatever feels right for you, holding these bulbs up into the stream of light that's coming down on this beam. You name your energy. What is it that you are bringing in at this time to help you in those areas? And once you have done this, you place the bulbs down on the earth, and using the trowel, you start to dig. And you dig a hole. The earth is so delicious. It's the ultimate deep, rich soil that you know is going to be the best planting place. And you dig, you use your fingers. It is joyful, touching the earth and allowing yourself to feel into the earth the perfect depth. You know when to stop, and you create this beautiful hole. And then into the space that is the hole, you send forth all your energy of healing, of success, of trust, of desire, of pleasure, all the fertile thoughts that will make these bulbs grow magnificently. And then you carefully place each bulb into the hole. You put them in a perfect triangular position. And then you start to fill in the hole with the earth using both your hands and the trowel. Filling in that earth all the way until you pat the earth down. And the light beam is then replaced by a tiny cloud comes from far, far in the distance. You see it coming over the horizon. This majestic black cloud coming all the way right over the space that you have planted. And then there is a growl, one single flash of lightning high up in the sky, and then a perfect downpour of rain onto this place in the earth. You yourself get wet with it, wet and naked, and the enjoyment of the elements of being messy and free. You laugh out loud, and you know that your bulbs are now secure. The cloud then moves away, and it is clear skies ahead. And as you look at the space on the earth, placing your hands on your heart, you just feel this immense trust. You know that I am has been activated. Feeling this energy now, filling your whole essence with the energy that something has been done. Taking a deep breath in and exhale. And another one of those, deep breath in and exhale. And then taking your hands, rubbing them together, generating heat, placing them over your closed eyes, breathing in and exhale. And you can rub your hairline, back of the head, jaw, temples, throat, heart, all the way down belly, and brushing down your legs. Allowing yourself to come into the space when you're ready. Shake the hands. Roll the shoulders back. And so knowing that something now very deep has been planted on your path, trusting it, no impatience necessary. Earth handles it all in perfect timing. And again, if you want to contact me, I'll put my email in the chat, and I'm going to hand you over to Nina for the final moments, and she's going to do a talk and a meditation.
Exactly. And of course, what we can touch here is just like the surface of what this topic is. There is so much more. It's so rich. So if you want to know more, absolutely come to Kabila. And as you said, both Joe and Inara, it's so beautiful also. So there's really going to be a pleasure also just in the environment. As in the environment here, all the animals came. They knew I was speaking because they weren't here, but they're gathering. So pleasure as medicine. It's interesting because I'm really like, in a way, a mirror of, but also 180 degrees opposite from Joe. I'm a doctor also. I am a Cancer. I have everything in Cancer. So I am the mother archetype, but I do not have children. And when you said that, Joe, about your life, like full on practice as a doctor, 3 kids, a husband, the pets and everything, how that is even possible, how anybody can think that you can survive something like that. And be healthy and like live a good life. I wonder if it's even possible. And I think that's something we are now at the brink of having to confront, that we are living in our society in a way that more and more people are getting sick. More and more people are being unwell. The kids, especially here in Sweden, it's horrendous. The number, or I'm laughing, it's not really funny, but the numbers of kids with problems with their physical health and their emotional health is staggering. All the kids with ADHD and autism diagnoses, and mainly what you give them is medication. So it's like, for me, there is something like fundamentally wrong, like in the way we live our lives, in the way society is constructed. So for me, there is really like this need of another way, like really another way, not a few other, a few more band-aids, a few more pills, a few more ideas, but actually reconsidering how we live our lives on all levels. But as I'm a doctor, I'm going to talk about health and how pleasure and health is related. I'm going to do a meditation in a very short moment. I want to mention one thing when it comes to pleasure as medicine, which I'm not going to have time to talk about now, but again, come to Kabila if you want to know more. When you do trauma work, I'm a child psychiatrist, so I work sort of with trauma and attachment. Being able to connect with pleasure, allowing yourself to feel pleasure, is so key to be able to do trauma work, because when you're traumatized, which so many people are, and that's again at the root of sickness, is trauma, emotional trauma, abandonment trauma, betrayal, abuse, physical, sexual, and so on. So many of us have experienced that. And when that happened, we were overwhelmed, there was no pleasure, and there was no agency. So when you go in there and heal this, which is becoming more and more possible with all the tools we're learning and downloading, to be able to go and rest on sort of an island of pleasure and do this work on your own terms. Like, okay, it's time to do some trauma healing. I'm going to go into it. It's not going to be pleasant. Maybe I have somebody with me. I'm going to stay there as long as I decide. And then I'm going to go back and go out, and I'm going to go and rest a bit on my island of pleasure. That's really, for me, one topic, or one line of the topic of pleasure as medicine. And it was funny because I Googled it, and there's really not a lot. You could think that pleasure is like a key medicine, but there is not at all a lot on it. So that's interesting in itself. But what I wanted to talk about more today, and what we're going to do the meditation on, it is pleasure and the feminine and how they come together. We have a clitoris, and I have read from relatively reliable sources that the only one who has a clitoris apart from the female is the snake, which would not be surprising if that's true. And nothing in nature is by par hasard, you say in French, what you say in English. It's no coincidence. So if there is an organ only for pleasure, it must mean that pleasure is essential. The men have their organ, but it's used for peeing and making babies and everything together. And we have this thing with only for pleasure. Oops. Somebody call me. So somebody's calling very insistently. I'm sorry, I don't know where that's coming through. So is there then a special link between women and pleasure? And if you know, the studies show that they say that men divorce when they find somebody else, and women divorce when they find themselves. When you find yourself, divorce. So then they also studies have found out when men divorce, their life expectancy lowers, and when women divorce, their life expectancy is higher. Meaning that, to me at least, I don't know if that has been deducted as a result, but it means that there must be something going from the woman to the man. So something is lost for the man when the divorce happens and the woman leaves. The man is robbed of something that actually makes his life expectancy lower, and the woman regains or keeps something for herself. And I'm beginning to think more and more that thing is linked to pleasure. And I was thinking, so when was this lost, and what is happening? And if you see, for example, all movie stars, like if you see like Sophia Loren, or you see Rita Hayworth or Marilyn Monroe, there was something in their energy, or what they exuded, which to me is the feminine energy, the yin energy, that passive, receptive energy that. And it doesn't mean it doesn't have a will, or it's powerless. On the contrary, this is a magnetic energy. And we're going to explore that in Kabbalah. And it can really, so many yummy things can be done with that energy. So it pulls things to it, which means you don't really have to work hard, but you can just let that, if you trust that female energy, you can allow it to bring the things you want to you. But if you see these old movie stars, and that's something that they have, my sense is that these days that feminine quality is more like a mask put on, and the sexuality is more masculine and more pointed, and it has a bust to it. It's not really soft in the same way. And if you see, like, when current actors are going to portray older or women from like the 40s, 50s, like if you have a movie that's about the 40s, the 50s, and then you have somebody from our age portraying her, you can just feel in the subtle bodies that this isn't really right. There is something missing. So what is that thing? What is that thing that the feminine carries that makes men live longer, that so many women give away because we're meant to, we're made to do that, but we give it too much and we don't keep anything for ourselves. That's what I would like to explore in the meditation. We have like a bit of a crazy situation here with 3 cocks fighting, but I hope it's going to be fine anyway. So, and of course, I don't have the answers, as you're very aware. It's not like I live this life in pleasure and I'm going to tell you how to do it. But I love exploring things together, and that's how we've been doing it in the Path to Pleasure so far. It's like when we did this retreat in London. It was like the audience and the speakers, we became like one unit, and we figured things out. So we're like surfing a wave of something that we are discovering. There's no set answers. We're all discovering these things together. But to bring it back to a more serious note, if we don't, I don't know what's going to happen to the human race. We are sawing off the branch that we're sitting on. And the state of humanity, health-wise, psychologically, physiologically, is not really good. So I think this is a really, really important issue to look into. So now we're going to look into it in a meditation, which is a bit different. So we're going to let the space land. So you can just close your eyes. And drop everything that is not here and now. And take a few deep breaths where you just drop everything that is not of the present moment. Feeling your butt on the chair or the sofa. And really feeling the space of the equinox. And the interface, like the interface between winter and spring. That sort of no man's land where there's no definitions. And see if you can sense the old that is letting go, like the winter is letting go. And the spring is coming, but the winter has not yet left and spring has not yet come. For the Australians, you know, you have to reverse it. And by connecting to that point where the old is leaving but hasn't yet left and the new is coming but hasn't yet come, see if you can feel if there is anything inside yourself that is corresponding. What is it that's leaving with winter? And what is it that want to come with spring? What is the new that is arriving? And even if you don't know the themes, you can maybe just feel it as an energy or like an entity. Something is leaving you and something is coming in. And then I invite you to see that in that thing coming, is there anything that is related to pleasure? Is there a speck of pleasure in what is coming? And it could be either be what's coming to you inside, like something rising up to be seen or developed, or it could also be something that's coming in nature. Maybe this rising of the sap and the life force. If you just tune into anything in what's coming that is pleasurable. And just feel like, try to go to the root, to the essence of that pleasure. It's not this sort of buzzing kind that pulls you away from something you don't like. It's more like an opening, something really exquisite. Just let that spread to all of your cells, all of your physicality. And then you can see inside if there is anywhere that healing is needed. It can be a space inside your body, it could be an emotion, it can be a memory, anything that needs healing, anything that is dark, that is stagnant, that is festering. If you can allow this energy of pleasure to go in there, to aggregate in that area. I'm getting my left ovary. I didn't know that, but that's where I want to go. Let yourself be filled up with pleasure and see if you can sense that there is life in this pleasure. There is something very alive, like the life force lives in this pleasure. You can go even deeper and really feel that life is coming back in to where there was stagnancy, darkness. Life force is pleasure. And then we're slowly gonna come back. You can sort of rise up out of that spot where pleasure was needed, but bring with you up like this memory of what pleasure is and what it can do. And maybe you want to make a commitment, and commitments at the equinox are really meaningful and they really mean something, to look for pleasure in your daily life, because we know that everything that you put your attention to is going to grow. So for those of you who feel ready, and I sure do, and I sure need it again and again, I make a commitment to be looking for pleasure, and you're going to see that it's basically everywhere once you start looking. And it's up to you to make room for it. There is always something to do, but we're starting to see the consequences of not focusing on this. So come to Kabila if you want more. Thank you for your attention. You're muted, I think,
Right. I said thank you so much for that experience. It was truly like delightful going into the spring and feeling that woo, you know. I wonder if anybody at all has any questions. We keep talking about Kabila. I'm going to bring in Joe as well into this middle space. We keep talking about Kabila because that is the place that the retreat's taking place, actually. And it's this sacred place in Cornwall on Bodmin Moor, which is full of sacred sites. So it's also got stone circles and standing stones and all the ancient indigenous kind of wisdom going on there. It's also got a river so clean you can drink it. It's got a sauna on the side of the river. It's that kind of thing. But do you have any questions at all for today, or any comments? What was that like? Pascal said that she's leaving. She really enjoyed it. Really beautiful. Anybody else have comments? How was it for you? Are you feeling like the balance or what's available to you? If you want to unmute, you can speak to us. Oh, we've got a shy group.
I can share if you like.
Yeah, you can share. Yeah.
Thank you, Nina. That was beautiful. I really the energy went into my solar plexus, which is interesting. It was like a feeling of break a solar plexus and the energy of the ego and doing things and be who I am. We're kind of been conditioned to think that's selfish or egocentric, but actually fusing it with pleasure made it much more delicious, made it more like, you know, just using that to go out there in a very sensual maybe, but also just like a delicious way of appearing into the world. So that really helped me to to do that meditation. So that was lovely. Thank you, Nina.
Anyone else want to say anything? Maria.
Hello, Maria.
Oh,
Hello from
hi.
Australia.
Hello.
So for me, because even though I'm the opposite side, but you know, I grew up in Switzerland and I also lived in Canada, so I can relate a lot to what's happening on the other side. So personally, I always go a bit in between. So even though I'm now aware I'm going to autumn, I also know what spring feels like. So I always go a bit both sides.
Bit of both. Perfect.
Yeah, and because it's so and also like if you go like Aries, if you go from astrology, Aries is the beginning. So yeah,
There's something beginning, no matter what, on both sides.
Yes. So it's something
Yeah.
beginning. Oh, and what else I would like to share? So I'm actually having a week off, and my husband too. And yesterday we went to the beach. It was the most beautiful day at the beach, and the ocean, 25 degrees, and blue sky. And today it like the weather turned overnight.
Just to remind you.
Yes. And something personal like to share. So 19 years ago, on the 21st of March 2005, I actually met my husband. We met at the youth hostel in Melbourne.
Wow, right on the equinox. So how beautiful. I knew that you had this amazing love story. You just spoke to him and it was the beginning of something at a youth hostel, right?
Yes. Monday morning at 8 o'clock.
Amazing. Yeah. It's like
Anyway,
a nice portal.
yeah, and otherwise I'd just like to say I'm looking forward to seeing you all in Cornwall at Cabilla. I'll be there.
I know. I'm so excited. Maria and I have got a long history. It's such a bizarre history. I don't even know how we connected, but I know that I did a retreat.
On Crete Island, I'll try to dig out photos. I'm not sure if I have
Right.
photos, but I really want to look over the weekend if I find photos.
Yeah, we met in Crete at a yoga retreat, and I took some women up the cliff on the full moon and said, let's do a ritual. You know, it wasn't part of the yoga retreat at all. And it was so memorable, wasn't it? It was like mind-blowing.
Yes.
I still feel the energy of it. It was so, so powerful. So we did a ritual, and then I ran a retreat near Glastonbury that Maria came to, I think 24 years ago. Is that right? Something like that. I think it was 2000.
Something like that.
Yeah. And Maria was also responsible for me at that time. I was like, I am not going to get a mobile phone. Are you kidding me? Like, it was that kind of attitude. I've done the 90s. I do not need these stupid things that are going to interrupt everything. Of course, hello. And, but on the way back from that retreat, it was terrible weather, stormy, wild winds and rain. And the car stalled like an inch, pretty much. We were right beside the motorway when it died. Maria was the only one with a mobile phone, and so called for, the emergency to get us out of there. And I was like, okay, I'm going to get a mobile phone. It was like just on that cusp, because I had life pre-mobile phone. So yeah, I can't wait to see you, and lots of healing work I think will occur. But I also think my instinct on this is there are leaders coming together. I work a lot with leaders. I have a feeling this leadership is taking place at the summer solstice this year because of the symbols, full masculine with full feminine. It's rare. It doesn't happen often, this. And then we're doing the alchemical marriage. We're doing ceremonies of that. So yeah, if you want to lean into your leadership as well, come. And wishing you a happy equinox. It's time for us to go. So maybe we all unmute and go, bye. Bye. Wishing you all.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Happy Equinox.
Happy equinox.